Right, let's talk about Washington, D.C., a town already famous for its, shall we say, unique ecosystem of influence peddlers, backroom deals, and people who can talk for an hour without actually saying anything. Now, imagine a new species has just been introduced into this peculiar jungle, the artificial intelligence lobbyist. Yes, the very same AI that can write a passable sonnet or tell you the quickest route to a decent cuppa is now also trying to charm its way into the hearts, minds, and crucially, the wallets of American lawmakers. It's like finding out your toaster is suddenly moonlighting as a political strategist, only significantly more concerning because, unlike your toaster, AI has the potential to, reshape society as we know it. These AI companies, names you might be starting to hear more often like OpenAI, the clever clogs behind ChatGPT, Anthropic, their slightly more cautious cousin, and Scale AI, the one already quite matey with the Pentagon, are no longer content just tinkering with algorithms in Silicon Valley. Oh no, they've packed their bags, bought some suitably sober suits, and descended upon the American Capitol with all the subtlety of a brick through a window. They're spending vast sums of money and hiring armies of well-connected individuals, all with the aim of making sure that when politicians think about AI, they think exactly what these companies want them to think. It's a classic Washington story, really, but with a futuristic, slightly terrifying twist. Now, why the sudden rush to rub shoulders with the political elite? Well, it's partly because AI technology is galloping ahead at a frankly alarming pace, and governments are starting to wake up and wonder if, just perhaps, they should have some rules in place before sentient robots demand voting rights or worse, their own Netflix specials. But it's also because these AI companies have spotted a golden opportunity. They see a government keen to embrace new technology, especially if it promises increased efficiency, global competitiveness, and maybe, just maybe, a way to shrink the federal workforce. It's a match made in a lobbyist's heaven. The upshot is that the corridors of power in DC are now buzzing with talk of neural networks, large language models, and generative AI, often explained by people whose primary skill is persuasion, not computer science. This isn't just about a few friendly chats over coffee. It's a concerted effort to shape the future of AI regulation or lack thereof, and to ensure that government coffers are wide open for AI-related projects. The stakes are incredibly high, not just for the companies involved but for everyone, because the decisions made now will have profound implications for our jobs, our privacy, and even our understanding of what it means to be human. So buckle up, because things are getting interesting. It's not just a gentle trickle, it's a veritable flood of AI-focused lobbying hitting Washington. Think of it like this: for years, the big tech giants, your Googles, your Amazons, your Metas, have had their lobbying operations firmly entrenched, like well-established badgers in a particularly lucrative set. Now, a new wave of AI-specific companies are muscling in, eager to carve out their own territory. OpenAI and Anthropic, which not so long ago were seen more as research labs full of brainy academics, are now behaving like seasoned political operators. They're hiring policy wonks at an astonishing rate. Anthropic, for instance, reportedly snapped up nearly a dozen policy staffers in just a couple of months leading up to June 2025. OpenAI, too, has been beefing up its Washington office considerably over the past year, and it's not just the new kids on the block. Companies like Scale AI, which already has a cozy relationship with the US Department of Defense, are doubling down, planning to expand their government relations and lobbying teams. Even NVIDIA, the company making the super-powered computer chips that are essentially the pickaxes and shovels of this AI gold rush, has decided it needs its own in-house lobbyists, registering its first ones in March of this year, 2025. It seems everyone who's anyone in AI wants a direct line to Capitol Hill. The numbers themselves are quite stark. The roster of organizations lobbying on AI issues in Washington swelled from 460 in 2023, a 190% jump from 2022, if you can believe it, to 462 by 2024. That's a lot of people trying to bend a lot of ears. This isn't happening in a vacuum, of course. These newer AI firms are joining the established tech titans, who already possess formidable lobbying machines. Companies like Palantir, Microsoft, and the aforementioned Google and Amazon have been playing this game for years, and they know all the moves. The difference now is the sheer focus and urgency around AI. It's become the shiniest new toy in Washington, and everyone wants to control how it's played with. The investment is considerable, with millions of dollars being poured into ensuring that the AI industry's voice is not just heard, but is often the loudest and most persuasive one in the room when decisions are being made. The strategy is clear: embed themselves within the DC policy circles, build relationships, and become the go-to source of information for lawmakers who are, let's be honest, often struggling to keep up with the dizzying pace of technological change. These lobbyists are described as very visible and very present on the Hill, constantly nurturing those all-important connections. It's less about overt arm-twisting and more about a steady, persistent campaign of education, an education carefully curated to present the AI industry in the most favorable light possible, naturally. The goal is to make AI seem indispensable, manageable, and above all, profitable for America, and by extension for the companies themselves. So what exactly are these freshly suited AI lobbyists whispering into the ears of Washington's powerful? Well, it's not overly complicated. They're essentially after what's charmingly known in DC circles as a classic Washington twofer. Think of it as a buy one get one free deal, but instead of slightly stale biscuits, it's favorable government treatment. The first part of this delightful duo is a plea for minimal, or if they can swing it, no regulation. They prefer terms like light touch approach or innovation-friendly frameworks, which sound rather lovely and benign, don't they? It's like asking for a small salad when you really mean you want to eat the entire lettuce patch without anyone telling you off. The argument they present is that stringent rules will stifle innovation, put American companies at a disadvantage against global competitors, especially China, a bogeyman always guaranteed to get attention, and generally gum up the works of progress. They paint a picture where too much red tape could strangle the golden AI goose just as it's about to lay a magnificent, technologically advanced egg. And so far, this approach seems to be working rather well. As Doug Kalidas from Americans for Responsible Innovation has pointed out, the overarching ask is for no regulation or for light touch regulation. And so far, they've gotten that. It's a testament to their powers of persuasion, or perhaps to the eagerness of some politicians to believe them. The second equally important item on their shopping list is increased access to lucrative government contracts. The U.S. federal government spends an astronomical amount on IT, estimated around $75 billion annually, and an ever-increasing slice of that pie is now being earmarked for AI. These companies see a vast, untapped market, and they're understandably keen to get their systems integrated into everything from the Department of Defense to the Internal Revenue Service. To do this, many are pursuing what's called FedRAMP authorization. Now, FedRAMP, the Federal Risk and Authorization Management Program, is essentially a government stamp of approval, certifying that a cloud service is secure enough for federal agencies to use. Getting this golden ticket can unlock billions in potential contracts. This desire for government business isn't just about the money, though that's obviously a huge motivator. It's also about influence, about becoming indispensable to the functioning of the state. If your AI is running critical government systems, you're not just a vendor. You're a partner, a key player with a seat at the big table. This strategy is particularly appealing as various federal agencies, including the Department of Energy and the Department of Veterans Affairs, are actively looking to build up their AI capabilities. The push for automation, especially with potential staff cuts under the current administration, is only likely to accelerate this demand, making these AI companies very happy indeed. Now, this AI lobbying bonanza isn't happening in a political vacuum. Oh no, it's flourishing in the warm, welcoming climate provided by the Trump administration and the Republican-controlled Congress. There's a distinct feeling in the air that AI is not something to be feared and cautiously regulated, but rather a magnificent tool for American dominance, and quite conveniently, a way to potentially shrink the federal payroll. This represents quite a shift in tone from the previous Biden administration, which, while also interested in AI, expressed more pronounced concerns about its potential downsides, things like bias in algorithms, widespread job losses, and even those rather unsettling existential threats that sound like they're lifted from a science fiction film. Under President Trump, who was re-elected in 2024, the narrative has pivoted sharply. The focus is now squarely on promoting AI for economic advantage and ensuring America stays ahead in the global tech race, particularly with China. It's all about competitiveness, innovation, and unleashing the power of the private sector. This pro-AI stance is bolstered by key figures within the administration who have strong ties to the tech world. For instance, Michael Kratsios, formerly a managing director at Scale AI, yes, the same Scale AI we mentioned earlier, busy cozying up to the Pentagon, is now the director of the Office of Science and Technology Policy. That's like putting a fox in charge of henhouse security, if the hens were algorithms, and the security involved giving the fox lots of lovely data. Other influential voices include David Sacks, who has been described as Trump's AI and crypto czar, and Mark Andreessen, a prominent venture capitalist and tech evangelist. These are individuals who firmly believe in the transformative power of technology and are likely to champion policies that favor rapid development and deployment with minimal government interference. This enthusiasm from the top has a clear trickle-down effect. One of the Trump administration's early moves was to repeal a sprawling AI executive order issued by the Biden administration, which had attempted to lay down some initial guardrails. Now, the White House is busy crafting its own AI action plan, which one can safely assume will be rather more industry-friendly. Furthermore, President Trump has been vocal about his support for AI, even announcing a series of massive investment deals from Gulf nations into American AI ventures. This all creates an environment where AI companies feel not just tolerated but actively encouraged. Their lobbyists find receptive audiences, their proposals are taken seriously, and their vision of an AI-powered future aligns neatly with the administration's own priorities. It's a cozy relationship, a symbiotic dance where the government gets to champion cutting-edge technology and project strength, while the AI companies get the freedom and funding to expand their empires. What could possibly go wrong? Well, we'll get to that. With such a favorable wind blowing from the White House and Congress, it's hardly surprising that the AI lobby has been chalking up some significant victories. They're not just having friendly chats, they're actively shaping the legislative landscape to their benefit. One of the most striking examples of this, as of June 2025, is a provision that managed to get passed by the House of Representatives. This little gem, tucked into a much larger piece of legislation currently languishing in the Senate, proposes a 10-year freeze on the enforcement of any state or local AI regulations. Yes, you heard that right, a decade-long holiday from pesky local rules. Imagine if your local council couldn't enforce parking restrictions for 10 years. It would be chaos. But for AI companies, it's a dream come true. Now there's a good chance this particular provision might get struck down by the Senate parliamentarian, a sort of referee for legislative rules, but it enjoys strong support among Republicans and could easily reappear in another bill. It's a clear signal of intent. The message is, let the federal government, which is currently very much on our side, call the shots, and keep those meddling states out of it. This aligns perfectly with what companies like OpenAI have been asking for. In a public comment submitted in March 2025, OpenAI specifically requested a voluntary federal framework that would override or preempt, in legal jargon, any state-level AI laws. They even used the rather blunt term private sector relief, which basically means, please make it easier for us to do what we want without annoying local busybodies interfering. It's worth noting that not every AI company sings from exactly the same hymn sheet on every issue. Anthropic, for example, has taken a slightly different tack on this state preemption business. They've actually urged Congress to pass a national transparency standard for AI companies and have lobbied against that 10-year moratorium on state AI regulation. This suggests there are some internal disagreements within the industry, or perhaps just different strategies for achieving long-term stability and public trust. However, the dominant push, and the one gaining the most traction politically, is for federal supremacy and a light regulatory touch. Beyond specific legislative items, the broader success has been in setting the tone of the conversation. The repeal of the Biden-era AI executive order and the ongoing development of a new AI action plan by the Trump administration are clear indicators that the industry's preference for less oversight is being heeded. The focus has shifted from managing risks to maximizing opportunities, from careful deliberation to accelerated deployment. This change in atmosphere is perhaps the AI lobby's most significant achievement to date, creating a fertile ground for their specific policy, asked to take root and flourish, ensuring that the path ahead is as smooth and unencumbered by regulatory obstacles as possible. One often overlooked aspect of this AI revolution is its colossal hunger for energy. These sophisticated algorithms and the vast data centers they inhabit consume electricity on a scale that is frankly mind-boggling. It's not like your laptop, which might gently warm your knees. We're talking about an energy demand that is set to skyrocket as AI becomes more pervasive. And surprise, surprise, AI companies are now at the forefront of a push in Washington to open up new energy sources, streamline the permitting process for data centers, and funnel massive private investment into the necessary infrastructure. They need more juice, and they need it now. In late 2024, OpenAI, playing the role of a responsible, and thirsty, industry leader, released an infrastructure blueprint. This document wasn't just a gentle suggestion, it was a clarion call urging the federal government to brace itself for an enormous spike in demand for computational infrastructure and, critically, the energy to power it. Their recommendations were ambitious, to say the least. They proposed creating special AI zones where permits for data centers and energy projects could be fast-tracked, a significant expansion of the national power grid, and a big boost in government support for private investment in major energy projects. Essentially, they want a VIP lane for building the power plants and data fortresses their technology requires. These proposals have found a very receptive audience within the Trump administration. Figures like David Sachs, Trump's AI advisor, have been banging the drum for more energy. Speaking at the Bitcoin 2025 conference in Las Vegas in May 2025, a gathering that probably used enough power to light up a small country, Sachs stressed the foundational role of energy for both AI and cryptocurrency. He enthusiastically applauded President Trump's push to expand domestic oil and gas production, framing it as essential for fueling America's technological future. The message is clear. If you want AI supremacy, you need an energy surplus, and traditional fossil fuels are very much part of that equation. The commitment from the administration seems concrete. Just this month, June 2025, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick stated that the Trump administration aims to facilitate the building of another terawatt of power, specifically for AI data centers. To put that in perspective, a terawatt is 1,000,000 megawatts, an absolutely staggering amount of electricity. This isn't just about keeping the lights on, it's about supercharging an industry that the government sees as strategically vital. The AI companies are effectively saying, we can build the future, but you need to build the power stations. And Washington, it seems, is more than willing to oblige, potentially reshaping America's energy landscape in the process. While lobbying for fewer rules and more power, both electrical and political AI companies are also aggressively pursuing the other half of their Washington twofer, getting their digital hands on lucrative government contracts. The US federal government is a massive potential customer, and firms like OpenAI, Anthropic, and others are lining up, eager to demonstrate how their artificial intelligence can streamline operations, enhance capabilities, and of course, generate substantial revenue for them. This isn't just about selling software, it's about integrating AI into the very fabric of government functions, from defense to citizen services. A key gateway to this market, as we touched upon earlier, is FedRAMP authorization. Securing this certification is a critical step for any cloud service provider wanting to do business with federal agencies, and AI companies are diligently working to get their platforms approved. The potential payoff is enormous, unlocking access to a significant portion of the federal IT budget now being directed towards AI solutions. Agencies like the Department of Defense, always keen on technological advantages, the Department of Energy, managing complex systems and research, the IRS, dealing with vast amounts of data, and the Department of Veterans Affairs, serving millions, are all actively exploring how AI can be deployed. This demand is only set to increase, especially if the Trump administration follows through on plans for federal staff cuts, creating a greater need for automation. The industry is also getting very savvy about showcasing its wares. In March 2025, several prominent AI firms, including OpenAI, co-sponsored the Special Competitive Studies Project's AI Plus Expo. This isn't your local Village Fete. It's a major DC trade show specifically designed for government services, a prime venue to schmooze with officials and demonstrate cutting-edge capabilities. It's all about visibility and making sure that when an agency thinks AI, they think of your company's particular brand of artificial intelligence. The efforts are clearly bearing fruit, with tangible deployments already making headlines. For instance, it was announced in June 2025 that OpenAI's O3 reasoning model is being deployed on a secure government supercomputer at the prestigious Los Alamos National Laboratory, a facility with deep ties to national security research. Not to be outdone, Anthropic also announced new AI models specifically tailored for U.S. national security customers in the same month. Even Meta, the company behind Facebook, is making its Llama AI models available to defense partners. The message is unmistakable. AI is no longer just a theoretical concept. It's becoming an operational tool for the most sensitive and critical parts of the U.S. government, cementing the industry's influence and importance. Now, while the AI companies and their political allies are busy congratulating themselves on this brave new world of public-private partnership, not everyone is convinced it's all sunshine and algorithmically generated roses. A growing chorus of critics, including some lawmakers, independent experts, and civil society groups, are raising serious concerns. They worry that the conversation about AI in Washington has become an overly tight, self-reinforcing loop between the companies selling the technology and the politicians eager to embrace it, effectively muting crucial discussions about the profound risks and societal implications of this powerful and still rather unpredictable technology. Gary Marcus, a well-known AI expert who isn't afraid to speak his mind, put it quite bluntly. The Trump administration is too chummy with the big tech companies and basically ignoring what the American people want, which is protection from the many risks of AI. This sentiment is echoed by others who fear that the rush to deploy AI, driven by commercial interests and geopolitical competition, is sidelining fundamental questions about fairness, accountability, and human oversight. Kevin DeLieben of Tectonic Justice offered a stark warning. Big tech gets fat government contracts, a testing ground for their technologies, and a liability-free regulatory environment. Everyday people are left behind to deal with the fallout. So, what are these concerns that are being glossed over in the current AI love fest? Well, it's quite a list. There's the persistent problem of bias baked into algorithmic decision-making, which can have devastating real-world consequences in areas like housing, policing, and hiring, disproportionately affecting already marginalized communities. Then there are the fears about mass surveillance, with AI tools potentially giving governments and corporations unprecedented power to monitor citizens, threatening civil liberties. The erosion of copyright, as AI models are trained on vast amounts of existing creative work without permission, is another major battleground. And of course, there's the ever-present anxiety about widespread job losses due to automation, as AI systems become capable of performing tasks previously done by humans. Even the more, shall we say, dramatic existential risks, the kind that involve AI becoming uncontrollable or pursuing goals misaligned with human welfare, are being downplayed. When Anthropic's CEO, Dario Amodei, highlighted the potential for severe labor force disruptions from AI in an interview in May 2025, he reportedly faced criticism from David Sachs, Trump's AI advisor, who dismissed such thinking as woke AI. This kind of response suggests a reluctance to engage with uncomfortable truths. The AI Now Institute, in a June 2025 report, went so far as to accuse AI companies of using government contracts and subsidies primarily to de-risk their own business portfolios, shifting potential liabilities onto the public while they reap the rewards. As we stand here in mid-2025, watching this intricate dance between the burgeoning AI industry and the powers that be in Washington, one can't help but ask a rather fundamental question: who truly benefits from this burgeoning relationship? On the surface, the AI companies are certainly doing very well indeed. Their lobbying efforts, focused on that light touch regulation and opening the floodgates for government contracts, have been remarkably effective. They've successfully educated lawmakers, many of whom, let's be frank, lack the independent technical expertise to critically assess the glossy brochures and confident presentations put before them. The result is an environment where the political will to impose meaningful, comprehensive regulation on AI is currently very low in the American capital. The narrative of AI as a crucial tool for national security and technological supremacy, particularly in competition with China, has taken firm hold. This has fostered a strong emphasis on public-private partnerships, where the government essentially acts as a patron and a prime customer for the AI industry. This symbiotic relationship certainly benefits the companies involved, providing them with funding, legitimacy, and a vast testing ground for their technologies. It also benefits politicians who can point to AI development as a sign of progress and national strength. But what about the average citizen? The person whose job might be automated, whose data might be misused, or whose life might be impacted by a biased algorithm? Their voice seems considerably quieter in these discussions. The concerns about fairness, privacy, job displacement, copyright infringement, and even the more alarming long-term risks of superintelligent AI seem to be taking a back seat to the more immediate goals of economic growth and geopolitical advantage. The critics who raise these issues are often dismissed as Luddites, fearmongers, or proponents of woke AI, as we saw. This creates a dynamic where the potential downsides of the technology are not being adequately addressed or even properly debated in the halls of power. The focus is overwhelmingly on the how. How can we deploy AI faster? How can we make America #1 in AI? Rather than the should we or what are the safeguards we desperately need. Ultimately, the current trajectory suggests that while AI promises transformative benefits, the primary beneficiaries of its largely unregulated rollout and government embrace are the corporations developing it and the political actors championing it. The broader public, who will undoubtedly experience both the positive and negative consequences of AI, are largely spectators in this high-stakes game. The question of whether this new, powerful relationship between AI companies and the government will serve the wider public interest, or primarily the interests of a select few, remains worryingly open. And given Washington's track record, one might be forgiven for feeling a tad skeptical about the outcome.